Hey, it's Thunder Walker with the Thunder Walker Experience. And once again today, it's been amazing. We've been in Michigan, we've been in Flint, we've been to Ann Arbor, we've driven everywhere almost through this smoke currency tour. And so this is the second day. We're almost wrapping up, but I wanted to stop by this amazing, amazing office. It is the Cannabis Council. And I was so shocked when I walked in because I'd never seen a law office be this friendly and this open to people. But I think you do more than just law here. I mean, I think you really create community. So with me, I have Tom
Yes.
and then
Jared.
Jared. I'm really, really excited about introducing both of them to you guys so you can understand exactly what it's like in Michigan at the Cannabis Council. So, first of all, tell me this. What made you come up with this brilliant idea?
That's you, man.
Well,
I can't speak to that. I was
my my partner Matthew Abel in 1999 started Cannabis Counsel as the nation's oldest cannabis only law firm.
Oh, wow.
There's 5 partners now. I joined in 2010. This law firm has been largely involved in legalizing it. We're an activist law firm, and it's been quite a journey, collaborating with other groups and pulling people together and putting together, I think, the best law in the country. No other state allows 12 plants, and for you to possess the entire harvest, no matter how many pounds it is.
That is unique.
And at home, you have to have most of it locked up. You can only carry 2.5 ounces. Most states only allow 1 ounce. Here we have 2.5 ounces. So we do have some good laws here in Michigan, and we're proud of where we're at. Business is flourishing, $3 billion industry now. We're helping businesses get licensed and with permits and with litigation and with constitutional issues. Everything from helping the small business thrive and to pushing the legislature to not reschedule it to Schedule 3, but rather deschedule it, which would have a ripple effect through 100 different regulations and could really make a significant change. So we're still, advocating for that, and it's been quite a journey.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. When you decided to do this and actually exclusively focus on cannabis, I think, did you have a lot of stigma and rejection? People thinking, why in the world are you doing that? Why are you risking all the things that you have worked so hard for? What did you say?
Yes. Oh, yes. As a criminal defense attorney for many years, when it was completely prohibited, now there's no more criminal defense. It's all, business licensing. But back then, judges would give me the eye, I'd show them my card with our federally registered trademark of a pot leaf, Cannabis Counsel. And they'd, make remarks here and there. And then many years later, they've apologized. They've said, Levine,
Ooh.
you were actually right. Look at where the world is now.
Yeah, you were a betting man. And you won. That's so cool. Jared.
Well, it's not just a bet when you're playing the game and working to make those changes.
Right, right.
Because the folks here, like Tom and Matt, have been instrumental in drafting the laws here for cannabis in Michigan. So they've been a part of that conversation, a part of that legalization from, before day one.
Awesome. So tell me this, with having your footprint be so solid into this industry, do you sometimes get calls from other states to say, hey, man, have you ever ran into this? I'm working on trying to create something similar to what you're trying to create. Or basically, what in the world can I do differently in my state to match Michigan?
All the time.
Yes, in fact, I'm meeting with the Kentucky legislature. They're hiring me. They're looking at legalizing it in Kentucky. I'm licensed in Hawaii and North Carolina. So I have some connections going back. And so we are part of a national network. And I thank Matthew Abel to, bringing me in and introducing me to really a national network of lawyers. We get together twice a year, Aspen, Colorado.
Oh, that's a nice place to go.
And Key West.
Oh, extra nice,
every 6
right?
months, every year, June in Aspen. And we actually, on Saturday, there's a celebration at Hunter S. Thompson's ranch. His widow still hosts us, just like Hunter S. Thompson did when he was alive, who was an early advocate. Lots of early advocates have been through this office. Tommy Chong has played the guitar right here.
Oh, how cool.
With us, and he's been here more than once. And John Sinclair is a friend of the firm. We see him even more often. But we'll be having the 5th anniversary this year of legalization. December 6th, we're hosting it here at the building. Jaron?
That's correct. Yep.
Tell us about that.
So our co-working and event venue space downstairs, 2930, we'll be hosting our 5th annual legalization day party. We invite all the activists and legislators and everybody from around the state who've been part of this movement to come out and celebrate with us for the last few years. And we invite them all to come and join us again. On a day-to-day downstairs, we have a co-working space for cannabis professionals, folks who work at the dispensaries, at the grows and the processors, or the ancillary businesses, that serve the cannabis businesses. Use the space to come and do meetings and take calls and just get some work done in a 420 friendly environment. We have a yoga studio with classes taking place daily at noon and 7 for folks to come out and do a session stretch.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and then we also host, outside of our own parties, we are available for rental for brands to do trainings for, their employees, where they're actually able to consume the product that they're talking about, that they're learning about. We have educators that are doing seminars on things like terpenes and what different compounds found in cannabis, not just cannabis though, but also all kinds of different plant medicines, and how that can work for folks that may have different ailments or looking for different kinds of solutions. We have people who just rent the space out to come and have a good time with their friends. So we encourage everybody to come check us out. That's the number 29, the word spelled out 30.com.
Oh, that is so cool. That is. And we walked the space. We got some video to show you, and we're going to mix that in. I'm going to ask you a couple of more questions if you don't mind. One of the things that I've noticed, you said that you were licensed in Hawaii, and then the other state was North Carolina. Those are two interesting states. Hawaii has an interest. I went there recently, probably in the last year. They had an interesting meeting. They're a little kind of, your legislators are a little, what is a good word? I can't think of another word but the truth. Sneaky. And so, yeah. And so during that time we were there, they had two festivals. They had two expos. They had one that I was attending, and then I went and attended another one. But during that time, the legislators met on a Saturday morning at 8 a.m., right? And so you're having two expos, and there wasn't a lot of representation of small businesses there. So that's something that I witnessed as far as being a part of the Thunder Walker experience. So what would your suggestion be, looking at everything that's going on in Michigan and how much power you guys were able to write as far as legislation and getting out there and really working for the people? What would your suggestion be for other states that are looking to do some of the same thing? I mean, when I was there, the legislators really didn't know the difference between CBD, Delta 8, and they were asking us what it was. The people in the audience watching them write legislation. And at that time, our senator who wrote the bill in Oklahoma actually came with me because I was judging cannabis, and she came with me, and we sat down with them to help them understand her 788 law that was written in and signed. So my question to you would be, what's the suggestion out there to help other places understand what you did? Was it just grassroots, or was it really you understanding the law and applying the law and then coming back and telling everybody else, hey, this is the plan?
Well, you bring up Hawaii and that legislature, and in answering that question, you got to require transparency in government. When I was in Hawaii, 1989 to 94, it was the most corrupt state government in the country. And we ran into corruption here in Michigan. Former Speaker of the House of Michigan legislature is going to prison for 55 months. And, he was taking bribes, and he was the funnel through which licensees were getting licensed in the immediate earliest stage of a brand new industry. So monopoly would transpire at that spot. I mean, it was a plan. There it is. And we had people whose licenses were denied by this very corrupt individual who was selling the list. Okay, I'll deny this guy. The bribers could say, deny, MSC3 or whatever.
Right.
I know all that was going on. And we're coming after them. Now, in Hawaii, it was the most corrupt legislature. They got bribed. They claimed, we didn't know we couldn't accept foreign campaign contributions. We sued them in a civil RICO, Racketeering, Influence, and Corrupt Organizations action. Senator, legislator, mayor of Honolulu, the governor of the state of Hawaii, they were all getting paid off by Japanese land developers at this point, where the Japanese yen was at really high value, and they were paying cash, knocking on doors in Hawaii and opening up suitcases of cash and buying up real estate. And these native Hawaiian farmers were being violently displaced.
Yes.
And even though they were required to provide relocation or build the golf course without taking so much space, because these native Hawaiian farmers were there for, we don't know how long. And so, the indigenous rights are important. They practiced cannabis. Long time ago. I mean, it's been a sacramental substance. It's the religious aspect of it. And now we're engaged in litigation right now regarding the religious aspect of mushrooms. Right here, they shut down a church that was open for 97 years. Shaman Shu, his constitutional rights are being infringed upon. They've placated the church that has been open continually for 97 years here in Detroit.
See.
Bushnell Historical District, the city council deemed it. And that's a religious exercise there. Now, thankfully, we have good laws in this country. Our founding fathers were religiously oppressed. And so there it is, the First Amendment. So we have this one, but it's going to probably be on the appeal.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
See, that's what's so amazing about plant medicine. It's a plant, but it's the one thing that kind of riles everybody up in such a weird way. I always use the example of I can go and get my 2-year-old grandbaby and who has autism, and I can go and spend $500 tomorrow morning and decide to strap her on my chest and just jump out of a plane, and there's nothing that anybody will say or do about it. Just, I can just go and do that. But I can't go get her plant medicine and give it to her. It's totally wrong, and I can't do it for myself in certain states. And so when you think about it like that, the ideal of just being able to do something that to me is a little bit more outrageous than just trying to plant. It's just ridiculous, but people don't see it until it happens to them. And I'm glad that you brought up the situation in Hawaii, because one of my personal friends down there that is a caregiver, and he was accused of stacking licenses. Just this past week, he was raided because they're really trying to take his land. And Hawaii's land is so expensive, so why people will lean toward doing something that's just ridiculous when he's been in business for several years as a caregiver. And so as caregivers out here, we have to actually create some type of coalition. Will that go across state lines at some point? I mean, Michigan has done an amazing job in what you guys have done, but when I look at other states, we really don't see that. I'm from Oklahoma, where we have a dispensary processing and grow. It's a small, group. You know what I'm saying? We're small, but we're still doing our thing. But we don't have the unity or the direction that we're looking for that we find in other states, such as Michigan. So, do you guys go across state lines to try to help with that?
Well, not us personally, but there are several organizations that operate across state lines.
Okay.
There's the oldest one, National Normal.
familiar.
The national organization for the reform of marijuana laws. Michigan was actually the second chapter of Normal after the California chapter was founded back in the early 70s. But then there's also the Marijuana Policy Project, who were very helpful in our own efforts to legalize cannabis in 2018. And that they're more on the lobbying legislative efforts to see legalization take place in other states. But we're always happy to talk with people about what we've done and found to be effective here, but each state is so different. Each culture is so different.
Yes.
Those people have to find their own voice. They have to come together and work together to form their own organizations to find the right kind of legalization and right kind of opt-in for their own communities. We advise, communities all over Michigan that are going through their own local opt-in processes of the very same thing all the time. What works here in Detroit is not going to work in Lansing, is not going to work in Traverse City. Those cities are going to have different answers to the same problems because they have different people.
I can understand that. One of the things that I think that really ties people's hands behind their back when they enter into the business sector of cannabis is banking. So, in the years that you decided to open up Cannabis Counsel, have you guys did things to work with banks or to help them understand what they needed to do to actually work with the consumer?
Oh, we still struggle with banks. I mean, we've had 3 accounts shut down because of the name of the business.
So we have corresponded with them
Yeah.
in no uncertain terms.
Right.
We are a law firm.
I deal with this.
Their very premise, that to not deal with a company that's selling or whatever, just didn't even apply to us.
Sure.
But they still wanted to shut us down because of the trademark.
I run into this for our advertising. We get shadow banned and blocked on social media and can't buy advertisements. Even though we're a legitimate law firm, we practice law here. We advise business clients. Everything we do is completely legal and has been for the entire time that we've been operating.
Right.
Basically, we're a corporate law firm at this point. Doing the same kind of services as a business like Honeyman, but for a very specific clientele niche. And we face these problems all the time. So obviously our clients face them in a much stricter and harsher way.
Absolutely.
But we have been kind of on the bleeding edge of dealing with that since even before there were licensed businesses in Michigan.
So that leads me to one of my last questions. In a perfect world, a perfect cannabis ecosystem, what would it look like? Not just in Michigan. What would it look like for a business owner getting licenses, for banking, and also for the patient? What would those 3?
Well, for one thing, patients should not be delisted from kidney transplant lists because they're consuming cannabis. I mean, we're so far wrong on this.
Yes.
A lot needs to be done.
Yes.
Not only those employees protecting their rights to get mortgages, to buy houses.
Which is another aspect of safe banking
that
isn't talked about a lot.
Yes.
Their medical rights as patients, their, the list goes on. And descheduling it instead of rescheduling it to Schedule 3, which is what the Department of Health and Human Resources wrote the letter to the DEA now recommending, everybody's all excited about that because, national normals had been asking them, every 5 years for the last several decades. Now, finally, they just do it, and they do it wrong. They don't recommend descheduling. But the DEA has a whole other process to go through. So, that doesn't make sense because doctors would have to prescribe it and pharmacies would have to distribute it. So it's inconsistent with every state's law, which is why it needs to be descheduled. So we're pushing the legislature for deschedule. One of our representatives here in Michigan just announced he's in favor of descheduling. And Michigan Normal, of which I'm a board member, my partner Matthew Abel was an executive director for 10 years. And very much a part of National Normal's legal committee. We're both lifetime members of that, and we're in touch with lawyers from all these states in terms of, learning lessons from each other, both in legalizing it, as well as lawyers facing, the different areas that are affected. And a lot of great lawyers are in that group, and out of sight. Continuing legal education twice a year, really high level, excellent. Yeah,
absolutely. I can see that. And then, just so we can understand moving it to a level 3 versus what you would think would be better, which is descheduling.
I think. The descheduling would ripple through housing rights, these different health care issues. Some of the pain clinics will kick you out as a patient if you're a cannabis patient. I've had mothers calling, crying. I've had to fight with hospitals throughout the whole 10 years I've been with this firm, 13 years, mothers crying. They're going to take my baby. And I got to get on the phone with the administrator, and I've been able to resolve it every time. It's right in the law. We have good laws here in Michigan. They just need to be educated because the prejudice runs through them.
Absolutely.
This reefer madness is the opposite, Dow Chemical Company produced that. If you look at the intro screen right along the bottom, they were betting on plastics and petroleum-based pharmaceuticals, providing the ingredients.
So I know you work with businesses a lot, and then you work with caregivers. And you just brought up moms. So moms in the hospital, maybe having a child, they test positive for cannabis. But what about, in some states, it's called Child Protective Services.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
We've run into them quite a bit. In fact, Baby Bree was a big case here where they pulled the child from the home and just because their parents were patients. And we went and protested right in front of CPS state offices in Lansing. Good friend of mine, Josh Covert, fought the case in court. And we were able to get her back, and thank God we were just celebrating a birthday recently, and they've come out with, is it a book or a movie?
I think it's a
Baby Bree. Yeah.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah. Because even women that work in the cannabis space, we actually get targeted more with CPS versus even if you don't consume. It's just because you work in the space.
Yep.
Yeah.
And that kind of brings us back to what we were talking about, the banking issue and how it ties into the individuals. We hear all the time about how we need safe banking for these businesses, but people who work at dispensaries are being denied access to basic things like mortgages that were mentioned earlier, car loans. They're being denied basic health care access. We've heard stories of somebody who needs a hearing aid, but they're not able to get financing for it because the health insurance company denied them because they work at a cannabis business. We've been discriminating against these people for a long time because of the industry that they participate in, and we've not made anything easier because it's licensed now. a lot of times they can't take money to the bank. You know, what good is a job if you can't use that job to buy a car? If you can't use that job to buy a house? If you can't use your health care when you need it, what good is having health care?
Right, exactly. It's very dehumanizing, the effects that goes on there. Last and final question, then I'm going to ask how we can treat. I noticed that you said that your logo and everything is trademarked.
Yes.
And what I found was really interesting, being a business owner, I've been able to trademark slogans, things like that. When I first applied to trademark my business due to the fact that it had cannabis leaves in the logo, I was turned down. Not necessarily by the agency to the government. I was turned down by an attorney. He was just like, I just don't think we can get this done. So when you're looking at a trademark, is it a trademark in your state or is it a national trademark?
This is a federal trademark, and we had to fight for it. I think there was a little less than a dozen office actions back and forth, but we got it, and it's registered now. But in the industry, if you're selling marijuana, you can't get a federal trademark. So they do draw the line there. You can get a state trademark, so we get those on behalf of clients, and you can self-claim a trademark by putting TM next to it.
Absolutely.
And that's not registered, but it's communicating to the world. So anybody in the world can just put a little TM. That's self-claiming. You don't have to go register or anything for that.
That's a huge gem, because I know there's a lot going on with different ideas and different things out there, and people are being creative, and it's like a barrier just because of cannabis, and it shouldn't be that way. Especially like even with, I'm from Texas and my business is in Oklahoma, so even with guns. So we are a state where, you know, you have a right to carry. First it was a license to carry, and then it was a concealed weapon license. But they made it at one point where you could not do that if you had a medical marijuana card. You couldn't do it. And I was like, that's so unfair, because, you know, you may just have an ailment, and you should be able to still have, carry.
Yeah, and that's a Second Amendment constitutional right. Very important. The state of Oregon, they took it up to their Supreme Court and won.
Okay.
Same deal. Concealed pistol license was denied a patient in Oregon. So I want to take that case up to the Supreme Court here in Michigan. It has not hit there. And we are being treated inconsistent with the Supreme Court of Oregon's holding.
Oh, wow. Okay.
The opposite.
Absolutely.
So we are being denied our Second Amendment rights right now.
Well, thankfully, you do still have the Second Amendment right to possess a firearm in your home, and that right has been upheld for cannabis patients and caregivers in the past.
Okay, cool. Tell us how we can find you guys.
So cannabiscounsel.com or Cannabis Counsel on all the social media. That's spelled COUNSEL, like a legal counsel, not like a council of people with a C. And then 2930 is our event space and co-working space downstairs. That's the number 29 and the word 30 spelled out.com.
Thank you so much. I'm Thunder Walker with the Thunder Walker Experience, and I had a wonderful time just seeing this beautiful space with all its history. Everything is on the walls. We're going to show the whole place to you. I believe it's amazing. I love the work that you guys are doing, and keep up the fight, because without you, we wouldn't be able to do anything else. It's just the truth, because we're in this space and they submit so many different things to you, and the briefs are just so thick, and you just got to go through them. Then you have to interpret them. So it is a lot. So we are so grateful to have attorneys that are out here fighting for us, business owners, caregivers, and patients. Thank you.